This is good. We're preparing your stream preview. Please wait a moment. And we've got a clock. Alrighty. It's good. Yeah, and we've got that thing going on. Cool. And we get there. Let me do this. And I think we're all good. Everything looks good. We got that number. That's working. Everything's fine. Good morning and good evening or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Here it's morning. It's a lovely sunny day. Spring is being mostly springish, which is good. It has rained a lot lately, which is great for the grass, unless you dislike mowing the lawn, which I do dislike mowing the lawn. Also, if you dislike having to pump water out of your basement, as I do, then also the rain has been problematic. But currently right now, not raining. Nice and sunny and lovely outside. So we got that going on, which is nice. Alrighty. Let's see. What have we got going on here? Hi from Singapore. Let me see. We've got Tim Albers, the noob painter. These are people that I see quite frequently. VJ Morph. Alrighty. What else have we got going on? Washington, D.C., rainy Scotland, Bangor, North Wales. I think there's a Bangor, Maine, too, here in America. Portland, Oregon. North Essex. Tampa, Florida. Turin, Italy. We've got Calgary, where it's sunny there as well. Got the Philippines, Louisiana, Napa Valley. Let's see here. Jakarta, the UK, upstate New York, Thailand, Germany. Jesse Daniel says, so is Adam needing a new sump pump in the bunker? I would need a sump pump in the bunker. There is no sump pump in the house, which is a bummer. And I talked to somebody about getting a sump pump, and they said it would cost $10,000 to $15,000 because it's a whole thing. So that's where that's at right now. Singapore, Phoenix. Let me see. Greece, Finland, Ukraine, Moscow. Another Singaporean. You Singaporeans should hang out. Netherlands, Australia, Quebec City. Going to a Shadespire tournament soon. Oh, well, have a good day. That sounds fun. I mean, I'm not a big tournament person, but at least getting together and playing a bunch of Shadespire, that's fun. Scotland. It's evidently sunny in West Scotland, but rainy in other parts of Scotland. So now we know that. California, Dorset, Beirut, Bulgaria, Switzerland, Belgium, Poland, Edmonton, Swedenland. I don't know if that's an actual word. Blakely, Georgia. What else have we got? Hello from England, recovering from a Eurovision party. I've heard of the Eurovision thing. I've never really figured it out, but yeah, it's interesting. VJ Morph asks, "Is that a red Pachow T-shirt you are wearing, Adam?" No, it is not. It says, "Never trust an Adam; they make up everything." This is from, I bought this at Gen Con a couple years back. So yeah. Mexico City, West Yorkshire. New York, Milwaukee. The Netherlands. Toronto. Hello from Poughkeepsie. So those of you that are into the Games Workshop stuff have probably realized that this weekend was Warhammer Fest. That snuck up on me. I didn't realize it was this weekend, but then yesterday during breakfast, I started seeing a lot of pictures, and there were some other leaks that came out earlier in the week. Those of you might have seen a very strange video for a new game called Rogue Trader, which is going to be another Skirmish game, evidently coming out late 2018. If you watch the video, it had this sort of funky 70s music going on in the background, and the models were all crazy, and it's very interesting to me what's going on with Games Workshop right now, because I mean we know Kill Team is coming. They talked about that at Adepticon, and we now know that Rogue Trader is coming, and that's two different. I'm going to move my chair a little bit. Those are two different skirmish games that are both coming. They're like boxed skirmish games, kind of like Necromunda. It's just interesting what they're doing, and now of course all of the things that they're doing with Age of Sigmar, and also the new Adeptus Titanicus game that they're also showing off at Warhammer Fest. There's a lot going on, so definitely. Let me see here. Are people talking about Eurovision? Those new Nighthaunt / Ghost paints look pretty good. Yeah, they do. Yeah. As a person who likes to play death, but normally plays a little bit more skeletons, but I do love the Karen Wraith. If you've ever gone and watched my video, it's one of my most popular ones about the real use for liquid green stuff. I use it on a Karen Wraith, which I think is probably one of the greatest models they've ever made, at least in my opinion. And now it looks like they're just taking that same sort of kind of design, super good design template, and just saying, how can we make it better, and just keep doing it. I'll show you some of the images if you haven't seen them already. But yeah, they're crazy, just friggin' crazy town. Also, yep, they did show off some Plastic Sisters. They showed off a plastic, like a 3D render, because during Adepticon, they announced Plastic Sisters coming, Emperor willing, in 2019, but they also mentioned that they were going to be kind of sharing the design process with us, like as a because normally what happens is that Games Workshop's like, ta-da, here it is, it's done, this is what it's going to look like. But they said with the sisters, they want to try to kind of show off and iterate and get feedback and then tweak and things like that, which they've never really done publicly before. So that's very interesting. But they've started showing off the first kind of render. You'll see it in a little bit. I think it looks really good, and I'm not even really a sisters fan, but I really like the way it looks. So good on them for that. People talking about they had a proper trailer for Kill Team a month ago, so I'm assuming both will coexist. Yeah, they showed off the trailer for Kill Team again at Adepticon, or yeah, I think it was Adepticon. And then now they've got this trailer for Rogue Trader. I get the feeling they're sort of maybe, I don't want to say they're throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, but I think that they are definitely looking at it from the aspect of, if we put out more of these sort of kind of boxed games where everything comes, all of them can be good kind of primers, for getting into wargaming or getting into Games Workshop at the very least. I mean, I know that not my first venture into wargaming, but definitely my first venture into Games Workshop was Silent Death. Space Hulk. Silent Death was a space combat game made by Iron Crown Enterprises back in the 90s. Space Hulk was my first kind of, and that was in the early 90s. I was playing it in college with a friend of mine who owned it. So it was one of those things that just, got me into it. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. So yeah, definitely. What else have we got? Grimlock Steve says, any news on any new Seraphon models? Also, when Age of Sigmar 2 comes out, will my Battle Tome, I'm assuming, be useless? I haven't seen anything lizard person related, Seraphon related, sadly. Man, I'm really hoping they do make some Seraphon warband for Shadespire, though. That would be really cool. I mean, we were having a discussion at the game store a couple nights ago about how the belief is that Shadespire is done. Now, understand, that doesn't mean that they're going to get rid of the game. The game's good, but Shadespire as because the game is called, I don't have a box here, the game is called Warhammer Underworlds Shadespire. So the belief by a lot of people is that they're going to come out with another one now that's going to be Warhammer Underworlds something else, a different location. Shadespire is the name of a city. So they're going to be coming out, they think, with another setting, and they will be compatible, hopefully. But yeah, it's going to be a new location and hopefully then they'll be able to Maybe it'll be more jungly, and then they'll be able to bring in like Nurgle chaos stuff, elves, Seraphon, that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's kind of the idea. So I really want some Seraphon models for Age of Sigmar, because then I can just paint like 5 or 6 or 7 and not have to paint a whole army. But I've never painted Seraphon before, and I've always wanted to. So what else have we got? People talking about Shadespire a little bit. Phil Johnson says, I was at Warhammer Fest on Saturday. No mention of Rogue Trader whatsoever. I think that vid was pushed out in a rush because the rumor sites were talking about it. I did see some posts and some screenshots from it, maybe on, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday. No, it must have been Wednesday, because then on Thursday, I think, is when they released it, because that's when we had the conversation at the shop, and I told my friend about it. So, because Thursday I was at the shop at night, I got a demo of Star Wars Legion from one of the guys who works at the shop. So that was cool. I'd watched demos at Gen Con when it was released or announced. I had watched some bat reps online, but actually sitting down and playing it, I wanted to do that just so I could talk about it a little bit more accurately, for lack of a better term. Anyway, yeah, we talked a little bit about Rogue Trader then, so I think they released that video on Thursday. And you're right, they may have decided just to get out in front of it and say, look, and here you go. Though that may have not been their original plan. So, yeah. John Smith says, how likely is it that there will be new starter boxes for AOS 2nd edition? Oh, that's a good question. So, like, the starter box that came for the first edition was Stormcast versus Khorne. And, yeah, they may release another starter box. I mean, it kind of makes sense to some degree. Again, I hope it's not Stormcast versus Khorne, because that's redundant. But it would be cool to make it... if anything, I would bet you $1 it's going to have Death in it. It's going to have Nighthaunts in it. I don't know who they'd be up against, but yeah. Brian asks, I already got a Knight of Shrouds for my commander. What do you think about Nighthaunts being their own army with a battle tome? Well, they've announced that there's going to be a battle tome, so there's that. I generally don't play so faction specific or faction pure. I like soup, so like my Chaos army is a mixture of like Slaves to Darkness, Nurgle, Rotbringers, or whatever, also Skaven, and also Goat people. So it's not because I think it's a super smart strategic plan. I kind of don't care. It's because I like all those things, and the fact that I can put them all into one army is fun. So that's where my head's at. That being said, at some point I will build a Stormcast army, because I bought the starter box originally and then sold half of the stuff to actually moderator Matt. He's got the Khorne stuff. And I want to make Stormcast because I've never painted him before, and I want to give him a try. That one will probably be faction specific, just because, why wouldn't I? Sort of. Also because they've made so much for it, and even more now. You don't need to stray, whereas if you want to go straight Skaven, you've not got as many choices. And then if you want to go straight Death, like specifically just like Death Rattle or something like that, you don't have as many choices. But now with Nighthaunts, you could, but I would still mix things, just because I generally like to mix things. What did you think about Star Wars Legion? Someone asked. I'm Fenster asked that question. I don't think it's something I'm going to purchase and play. I'm 98% sure that's not the case. I do think that the Rebel sculpts are better than the Imperial sculpts, and the Rebel sculpts are better than I originally saw. I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention, like I was just always looking at the space or the Stormtroopers, but I ran Rebels versus Imperials, and I liked the Rebel sculpts pretty well, actually. I thought they were well done, whereas the Stormtroopers just weren't as good, and Darth Vader... Like the pose they have for Darth Vader, he's got like he's holding his like lightsaber, and he's got his arm kind of out, and it kind of looks like he's reaching for some milk at the grocery store. I mean, it's not a very dynamic pose. I don't know, it just wasn't my thing as far as the sculpts are concerned. As far as the rule system is concerned, I would say it's more detailed than Age of Sigmar, but less detailed than maybe 40K. So it's got an interesting niche for that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's some interesting mechanics in it. I like the order cards at the beginning and the way that you kind of determine who goes first and who goes second each turn, and how you sort of bid almost for that, and whatever. That's, I think, a really interesting technique. It's got a lot to do with X-Wing, so if you've played X-Wing before, you are ahead of the game a little bit and trying to figure out how the game works. At least, when you're still first running your first game or two. Like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, like me and like an X-Wing, and then the guy that was teaching me, Jesse, would be like, yeah, like an X-Wing. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So there's a lot of that stuff that kind of, works together. But yeah. So yeah, it doesn't seem like I'm going to go down that direction. But yeah, it's I don't know. The store owner also was telling me that he's been talking to other store owners online. They have like a, I don't know, Facebook group or something like that. And he said that a lot of the store owners are lamenting that it's not selling as well as they would have hoped. There was an initial kind of mad dash, and now it's completely stopped just in some places. So that's kind of weird, especially for a Star Wars product. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Voodoo 1988 asks, question, how do you feel about the new death models, especially looking at how thin the models get in some parts? I like the look of them flying around, but worry about all those fiddly parts breaking. Well, if you want to talk about fiddly, the Cairn Wraith, which if you look it up, Cairn is spelled C-A-I-R-N, question mark? I think that's right. That's one of their older models. It's plastic. It was from back in the regular fantasy days, and it's this sort of ghostly kind of cloak guy holding a scythe, and he is literally touching the ground just on the tip of his cloak. Like, that's what's supporting him, and that's what makes him look floaty and cool. I've had that guy for a long time, and he hasn't broken yet. I mean, if you treat your stuff rough, it's a different story. But I think if you because it's plastic, like if that was a metal model, no, that would not work. If it was a fine cast model, no, certainly not. But because it's a hard ABS plastic, it's light, but yet also strong enough that I think that it's okay. Again, if you don't, like, I keep my stuff in like foam, when I take it places and travel and stuff like that. So I feel like it's gonna stand up a little bit better. If you throw all your stuff in a shoebox when you go to play at the local shop, you may run into trouble. But you may have already known that, you know what I mean? So, yeah. The Cheese N1P says, have you played Gaslands? Having a lot of fun converting up Hot Wheels. Have not played yet. I have not played it yet. I watched a demo at Adepticon. I have a copy of the book. Actually, I even last week or 2 weeks ago, I ordered some laser cut MDF terrain and some acrylic templates, like movement templates and stuff like that, from Death Ray Designs. They have really nice terrain for Gaslands, and they have the really nice little acrylic turning templates and movement templates. You can go to deathraydesigns.com, I think, or just do a Google search for Death Ray Designs. Say hi to Austin. Yeah, they are. I'm looking. Those I think are going to be showing up like Monday or Tuesday, actually. So I'm looking forward to that. Once I get a little bit more time, my plan is to go to the dollar store and pick up some like Matchbox style or Hot Rods or Hot Wheels style cars, some cheap ones, and convert them, because I would like to do that. I know that at TMX, I know that the Noob Painter is going to be running some Gaslands. So, you could take a look at the TMX website, which is here. Look at that. I fixed the logo so I don't have to put my hand behind it so you can see it. I gave it a little white outline. Anyway, it's coming up June 9th and 10th. See, that's a heck of a segue. Oshkosh, Wisconsin, tabletopminions.org/TMX. If you want to play Gaslands, the Noob Painter will be running it there. So look forward to that. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, and I really like what they're doing with it. I think they might be making an expansion over at Osprey. I don't know. We'll see. Osprey's been doing really great work lately, I think. They just have been coming out with so much different stuff, and they've even been working with Osprey has, if you watch Guerrilla Miniature Games, Ash Barker, he wrote a game for them, which they've produced or are about to produce. He was showing it off at Adepticon, but I don't know if it's for sale in stores yet. But I think it's just about to be, and it's like a zombie game. A friend of mine, Tim, is also writing a Viking kind of game that they're also producing, and I know that the guy who wrote This Is Not a Test is doing they just announced it, is doing a cyberpunk RPG for them, which is interesting. So, yeah, they've been doing a lot of different cool games, and I mean, not everything sells like crazy, but then every once in a while you get a Gaslands, or Frostgrave, and then that does really well. So, I think it's kind of cool because they're also not producing a huge giant box and all that kind of stuff. They're making these books, and then you go from there. So. Lord and Losser says, what exactly do you use for transport, or perhaps what would you suggest? Do you use a specific brand of carrier, or do you find something else? I've pretty much always been a battle foam guy. I got my first battle foam bag back 2010, I want to say. It was kind of a payment/present from Beasts of War, actually, for working for them at Gen Con that year. And it was a 432 bag, I think. And so I got that, and I've ever since always pretty much had battle foam. So I've got a bunch. I've got a crazy amount, actually, of battle foam. This is the Pack C4 from Battle Foam, and this has got all my Shadespire in it. Well, not all my Shadespire. It's got a good portion of my Shadespire in it. They have this nice Shadespire loadout for Battle Foam, and I've been really happy with it. And so that's kind of what I like. There are certain armies, like if you're playing Age of Sigmar and you play the Sylvaneth, which is the tree people, that's really hard to fit into foam. So then in that situation, you generally want to magnetize. So you put magnets in the base of the model, in the bottom, and then you stick it to a piece of metal. Some people will put metal on the inside of a tackle box, like a toolbox, and then just stick their models to the inside so they're not touching anything. Battle Foam makes a magnetic tray that goes inside their normal bags called Magna Rack or something like that. And actually, I'm about to make a video about tray transports, or miniature transports, and the different types and things like that. So this is sort of a lead up to that, let's just say. The Noob Painter says, I'd offer to run you a Gaslands game, but I'm sure you'd be up to your neck in running the con. That's fine. Not a problem. I'll definitely probably poke my head over and watch it a bit. But I'm looking forward to it. Gigabytes TV. Hey, Gigabytes. Tim is writing Ragnarok. Looks fun. That's the name of the game. I couldn't remember it. I knew it was about Vikings, and I know he was running it like all 4 days of Adepticon. But yeah, Ragnarok. That's going to be coming out, I think, sometime this year from Osprey, and it looks pretty cool. He was actually telling me about it a little while back. What else? Diaz52 says use egg cartons. Well, yeah, I've actually, Sam has, there have been times we've played, what the heck were we playing? I think we were playing 40K years ago, and he brought all of his orcs in egg cartons. I mean, that works. I mean, I wouldn't go on a plane that way, but, if you're just driving across town, it's not too bad. Useful G said, did anyone see the Wood Robot gaming tables? They look sweet. Wood Robot evidently is a company that is now got the license to make, like, specifically, like, 40K and Age of Sigmar style gaming tables for your gaming room, and that they showed off a bit at Warhammer Fest, which I'll go through and click in a little bit. So yeah. Emperor Richard says, Adam, have you ever used Bartertown or other miniature trading websites? If yes, would you please explain your experiences? I used Bartertown years and years and years ago, and I bought some models. Like, not even, I don't remember what the heck they were. They were like kind of old, out of print, maybe, what was that game? Warzone, Mutant Chronicles. I bought some models from them, and I forget what I bought, but I bought some models from Bartertown. I never have traded models, but I did buy some from somebody on Bartertown. I haven't been to that site in years and years and years. Most of the other used type models that I have purchased since have all been just from eBay. That's been what I generally work with. VJ Morph says, you winning much of your Shadespire, Adam? I played a 4-player game. No, I played a 3-player game. I have played a 4-player game as well. I did not win that one. I did play I almost won that one. I played a 3-player game recently, and that one I did win, sort of, by the seat of my pants. I haven't been playing as much one-on-one lately, actually, because we've been playing multiplayer, because it's been kind of fun. So, yeah. Philip says Gaslands has announced a series of free PDF expansions for the game. The first is out now and is based around the war rigs. Oh, that's pretty cool. Kind of sounds like a Mad Max thing. Fury Road. It was on. Did we just watch that recently? Yes. Was that on TV? Maybe. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Joshua says, recently picked up a pack of Army Painter Mountain Tufts. How does it fare compared to GW Grass Tufts? I don't know if I've ever used any of the GW ones. I've only ever used the Army Painter just because that's what my local store sells. And we don't have a GW store anywhere near me. It's like 100 miles to the closest GW store. So I've only ever just used the Army Painter ones. I like them. I mean, I don't use them a ton. I generally don't like stuff on my bases that isn't like rock and grass. Every once in a great while, I will build a model and I'm like, I think that some tufts would be good here, but I have never yet like flocked the base, like with the normal, like, kind of grassy. Like I've done static grass, but never like normal green flock, which normal green flock is actually like ground up foam, I believe, like squishy, like soft foam, that's been dyed green. I do own a bucket, a little thing of green foam flock, because I'm going to put them on my Blood Bowl bases when they're finished. But I generally hate flock because it gets all over the place. Like it never always sticks. There's always sometime you take them out of your like trays or you take them out of your whatever, and you're like, there's this green junk all over, and you're like, God, I just hate that. I don't like glitter either. I'm an anti-glitterite. Anti-glitterite? I'm going to say that's probably the right word. Nick's comments says, just got my first cheapo airbrush setup for priming and base coating. Any quick tips that come to your mind? Keep it clean. Keep your airbrush clean. You will be a lot happier the next time that you want to airbrush if you cleaned it well the previous time. Present you will be very angry at past you if past you didn't properly clean out the airbrush. I actually, now if it's a cheapo airbrush, I don't know. It's probably still fine. My point is that I generally keep my airbrush in fluid when I'm not using it. Just water. Water and a little bit of like cleaner. There's this stuff that I get that's like Iowata airbrush cleaner. I have no idea what's in it. But I squirt some of that into the water. And I keep not all of the airbrush components. I don't keep the needle in the water. When I get done, I take the needle out, I wipe it off, with some water and some cleaner, and then leave it to dry. But the main body of the airbrush, the front nozzle parts, those all stay in liquid all the time. The part you unscrew in the back and the trigger and that stuff, I don't keep in the water. But the other stuff I basically keep in the water all the time. And then I've never had a plugged airbrush. I've never been like, wow, I can't get any paint to go through this. I've never had that problem because I keep it in fluid. So yeah, that's kind of where that's at. JP Got Rockets, hey, have you seen Cobra Kai on YouTube Red? I've seen trailers for it, but I'm not planning on watching it. I don't know why that guy. I just don't want to see either of those guys being old. I don't know what it is. I've heard good things. Some people at work have talked about how they enjoy it, but I haven't watched it. I don't have YouTube Red. I keep thinking I should, but I don't. Justin says, hi, Uncle Adam. Been plugging your channel on the Hellboy Kickstarter. Hope you get some new viewers. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to my Hellboy Kickstarter when it eventually does come. I signed up, I think, on the first day. I've been kind of staying away from Kickstarters mostly, but I am a big Hellboy fan. And so I saw the models at Adepticon. They had there's the one that I posted on Instagram, which was Hellboy, and it was a painted thing. It was in the cabinet, in the case or whatever at the Mantic booth. But then during the Mantic night or Mantic the Mantic party on Saturday night, because I'm a fancy press guy, I got to go kind of like into this little back area and look at a bunch of the models that they weren't showing off to the public yet. Now they are, but at the time they hadn't been. So I was like, I think I'm going to have to get this. And as it is, it sounds like now at my pledge level, which is like, I don't know, around $100 or $110. I think I'm going to get 1,000 models. I don't know. It's just like they keep hitting stretch goals, and they keep hitting stretch goals, and I'm just like looking at how many models I'm going to get. I'm like, oh, so that'll be interesting. But even if I really never play it, as long as I get to paint a bunch of fun models, maybe, and not all of them, but just the ones that I pick and choose. I mean, it's kind of expensive to do that, to just be like, oh, I just want to paint like Hellboy and Abe Sapien and a couple other, and like Lobster Johnson, and then go, well, yeah, but you paid $100, and now you have still another 150 models that are not unpainted. Hopefully, I won't do that. Hopefully, I'll, go on a little bit more than that, but. That's kind of the plan. Maybe I'll just paint some, and then the rest of them I'll just play with. So it's hard to say, but it does look like a fun. It does look like a fun game. I mean, when I was looking at it at Adepticon. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Kieran, hey Kieran. Says, just a thought after being at Warhammer Fest, do we think that GW may be at risk of saturating their own market? That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they can saturate their own market. I think that a little bit along the lines of what Osprey's doing, I think that they're throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And it's partially like I think that they knew that Shadespire was going to do well. I don't know that they knew it was going to do as well as they thought. I think that 8th edition did better than they thought it was going to do. But I think that they're trying to, unlike the old GW, where they were like, you're either going to get into fantasy, which is a crazy, huge, steep barrier to entry, or you're going to get into 40K, which is also roughly almost as steep. Thank you and good night. I mean, that was the old kind of opinion. And now with the new GW, there's so many different ways to get into the hobby, and they just keep putting out more. The trick is you don't have to buy them all. If they get to the point where they start finding that like some of them aren't selling, then they may dial back some of those box sets. But I get the feeling that that the box sets are doing pretty well for them, whether it's Shadespire, whether it's Space Hulk, whether it's Necromunda, whether it's Blood Bowl, these types of things. And the thing is, they can put the box out there, and then if it doesn't sell very well, they don't really have to put out too many expansions. But if it sells okay, they can put out some expansions, and they can kind of gauge what they're doing. Like there's been expansions for Necromunda, there've been expansions for Blood Bowl, and I think that they're putting them out there at the speed at which the sales dictate. So, it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because now with Kill Team and also Rogue Trader coming out, and it'll be interesting to see. But I don't know that. I'm not sure that they can. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like for a while, I thought that Fantasy Flight was going to start oversaturating the market, especially because at one point, like a big wave release for X-Wing came out almost the exact same day that the original Armada box set came out, which was almost the same day as the original Imperial Assault came out. They all came out super right on top of each other. Now, that was unfortunate, but it was not their fault. It was because a whole bunch of stuff got stuck in the port of Los Angeles due to a strike. So they wanted to have that stuff, from what I've heard, spread out more, but a bunch of stuff sat on container ships for 6 months or less. And then all was released at once, and then they were like, well, now we have to make money. So they dumped everything all out at once, and then a lot of people were like, I would buy all of this, but not when you make it all come out in the same day. So that kind of affected sales, and it was a whole thing. But I don't know. I think that GW seems to be spacing this stuff. They may be announcing a bunch of it, but it's Warhammer Fest. I mean, this is one of their big, things. So they're going to announce a bunch of stuff of it, but we're evidently not going to see Rogue Trader till late 2018. Whereas Age of Sigmar 2.0 is supposed to be like June, I think. So yeah, it'll be interesting. JP Got Rocket says, I went to Michael's and the checkout counter had glitter all over it, and they had undoubtedly cleaned up a spill earlier, but it looked like a stripper had exploded. I think when strippers explode, glitter is not actually the result. I don't think that's what happens, but I kind of know what you're saying. That's one of the reasons why I hate glitter and also flock, is because it gets all over. Now, if they would mix flock and glitter together and put that like on a base, like, you know, for like some sort of stupid elf bases or something like that, then I would stay away in droves. G3XE says, AOS 2nd edition. You think it will be base to base? I don't know. They haven't really said. They've talked about a couple of things that'll be going on, but base to base is not one of them. They have announced that you're not going to be able to shoot out of combat anymore, which I guess, you know, makes sense. Now, they have not announced that you can't shoot into combat. So that'll be interesting. I don't know how that's going to work. What else have we got here? Adam, have you seen the minis that come with the Dark Souls board game? I bought the game cheap because the box was banged up at my FLGS, and the minis are amazing. Yes, actually, I have a copy of the Dark Souls game, and Steam Forge sent it to me. It's very... The models are pretty cool. I mean, some of them are a little bendier than I would like. Not like... They're not like rubbery like a HeroClix. But like the process, or just them being in the box for a while, some of them have like a giant hammer with like a skinny little, you know, handle, and that's a little bent or whatever and stuff like that. But hot water, like a bowl of really hot water or something like that, could probably fix that. It's probably not a bad idea. John Potter says, what's the scale of the new Rogue Trader? They looked kind of big in the promo. I'm assuming it's probably 28 millimeter, or whatever, you know, Games Workshop is considering to be 28 millimeter these days. But yeah, it's really interesting. That's because that's a good question. Yeah, there's a bunch of the models in there that did look big. The sort of vaguely nurgly kind of guys, or whatever they were, looked pretty big. What else have we got here? Zebulon Jurgens says, good morning from Delavan, Wisconsin. Hey, that's not too far away. Rocking my new Pachow shirt today. Well, good. I'm glad that's worked out for you. One of the bosses at work bought one too. So it's weird. He's just like, well, I just want to wear a t-shirt with your face on it. I'm like, well, that's kind of odd. Like, I own that t-shirt as well. I don't know that I would wear it myself, because it's weird to wear a shirt with your face on it. Maybe, I don't know. At some point I'll probably wear it, but I'm not wearing it today, as I mentioned earlier. All right, why don't we go take a look at the thing that I was going to look at, which is this, and then I'm going to do a button over here. Where the hell is it? There it is. All right, so this is on the Warhammer community site, warhammer-community.com, and this is part of the live blog. So this, I've scrolled all the way down to the bottom of it because it's reverse chronological, like the newest stuff is at the top. So, I don't know, this is, I guess, a video of some people hanging out at Warhammer Fest on Friday night. There's a video, but I'm not going to run with it. But I just wanted to, I got over here. Okay, so I wanted to scroll up. So they first started showing up, they kind of basically started by announcing, oh, hey, there's a new edition of Age of Sigmar coming out, which they're not calling second edition, they're calling it the new edition, which, you know, all right. So they've got a new Stormcast person. I don't know what that guy is, but he's sort of cool looking. I like the fact that he's got a little bit more of a robe thing going on. He's still got the normal armor, but he's got a robe thing going on. And then this is like the beginning of some of the amazing looking new like Nighthaunt stuff. I don't generally paint my guys to look ghostly. At least I haven't. You know, like I haven't painted my like if it looks like they have a cloak, I like for that Karen Wraith. I should move over. If for the Karen Wraith, I've painted him to have like a cloak. You know what I mean? He's like he looks like he's got a cloak, and I also, you know, textured the cloak so it looked like it was dirty. But yeah, I don't know. The way that they keep painting these, and they even come out with new paints designed to do the thing where they look ghostly, and I'll probably come across those in this blog thing at some point too. But yeah, they're very interesting, I think. So they're expanding the narrative, they're refining the gameplay, and they're making cinematic sorcery. So that's something. That button doesn't click. Okay. So yeah, they opened up. Here's them opening the gates to the thing. And a bunch of people sitting around watching seminars and things like that. So that's fun. There was a guy who was dressed up as a Imperial Guardsman. Oh yeah, that's right. There was also the Golden Demon going on too. I've got a friend. If you watch other YouTubers who talk about Age of Sigmar, there's Vince Venturella, Warhammer Weekly. They do on Wednesdays, and he is over there actually at Warhammer World because he would like to get a Golden Demon. And he's a very good painter, so he brought stuff to put in the competition. You used to be able to get a Golden Demon in America because they used to have games days in America with Golden Demon competitions, but they stopped that in 2013. So now if you want a Golden Demon, you got to fly over to England, or you could take a boat. Anyway, yeah, a little dude running away. All right, so they're doing some really interesting stuff. Like they're making this new comic. Like it's going to be, I believe, like a web comic, and it's going to be kind of a self-aware sort of thing about like these different, like, like Stormcast, but it's basically like the models, and they're doing their stuff, and then you can see there's like a person who's like putting the models together, and so it's this sort of interesting self-aware kind of stuff. But they have this new webcomic called Role Models, which will be coming out, I believe, soon. They're going to have the Hammerhall Herald, which is going to be kind of like, I don't know if you've watched, there's a blog that they're doing that's like it's basically like from the point of the Imperial Guard, and it's like a newsletter to the Imperial Guard, which is kind of funny. They're now doing a fantasy version of that, it looks like, too. And they're going to make their own podcast, the official Warhammer Age of Sigmar podcast. I think that's kind of interesting, too. That they're starting to kind of get... I mean, obviously, they're getting into... Obviously, they've got Duncan, like, every day on YouTube, and they've got the Twitch stuff, and now they're getting into their own podcasting, which I think is kind of interesting. It makes a lot of sense, too. What else have we got? Some super sweet-looking models. These are videos you could watch. Oh, yeah, this is very interesting, too. They are now making models that are basically spell effects. Now, this is part of that cinematic magic that they're talking about, and it's going to be very interesting to see if these are a requirement. Like, can you cast this spell without the Flaming Skull model? That'll be very interesting to see. I can tell you right now, I don't know that I could ever paint a Flaming Skull model as well as this is done, and this is not necessarily awesome, but like, I stink at any kind of like flame effects, smoke effects, magic effects, which is why I'm generally not into those being on models. But I mean, these models are just going to be looking like that. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if you have to have this model to be able to cast this spell or not. Maybe you can just use a marker. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, there's like a lot of them. That one looks janky. I don't like the look of that one, frankly. The skull one was cool. That one, I'm not a fan of. That one's pretty cool. That one I like a lot. See, again, spell, you get smoke effects going out of there. Actually, Sam painted this guy on the channel last year. His looks way better, in my opinion. Oh, by the way, last weekend, filmed 2.5 new Sam episodes up in the new studio. So those will be coming soon. Just FYI. This, whatever the heck that thing is, pufferfish of death, he was showing off a little bit at Adepticon, and people were like, "What the hell is that?" And they didn't say. So now we know he's a spell effect or whatever. He's got, man. I hope that's like a forced perspective thing. Like, I hope that necromancer over there is like way in the background, and this guy, because otherwise that thing is as big as an Imperial Knight, which would be weird. Yeah, I'm not in love with all of these. I'm in love with some of them. Let's just say that. But yeah, it's pretty cool. You may have cast a Purple Sun before. I haven't. but never like this. Get ready for roaming predatory spells, fantastical enchantments, and summoned sorceries that aren't just words on a war scroll, but active and very deadly participants in your games. Well, kind of sounds like you kind of need them then. This is the image that's on today's title thing. And you see Nagash, and you see a bunch of other big dudes, and you see a bunch of cool dead dudes, and a bunch of Stormcast dudes. Just a lot of dudes. Some ladies, though, too, which we'll come up with in a bit here. So, yeah, they made the big announcement that the second edition's coming out, or new edition for Age of Sigmar. That's going to be kind of cool. Speaking of ladies, we've got some test renders of Sisters of Battle. If you're into that, I think that like they're not wearing the high heels anymore. They are still a little maybe corseted. They've still got some breastplates. I showed them to my wife, and she's like, I don't hate what they're doing. So that's good. But yeah, normal, sensible, shoes for being out in battle, which is very nice. Yeah, I like which way they're going with these. I don't know about the integrated bases. I don't know if that's necessarily... I mean, it's kind of cool. I don't know if it's something I need, but sometimes, they do it and sometimes they don't. Like in Shadespire, it totally makes sense. And this, maybe not as much. Oh, there you go. See, there's more of that. Big old image. So that's like one of the first images that they're showing off of the new Sisters, Plastic Sisters. A bunch of cosplay. I'm not a big cosplay dude. Cosplay. Okay, now we're getting into some of the death models. So this is the unpainted version of that death model we saw at the beginning, and I'm still totally on board. Absolutely. I mean, I like he's got like a chain on his wrist, and he's got the blade and the little tombstone, and that's all pretty awesome. Here's him and a good portion of his friends. I'm definitely on board with these guys. Don't know what they're called. But they're pretty awesome. Yeah, seriously, like, really cool. I like those a lot. These guys with the horse skulls, these guys are awesome, too. Gee, I mean, I'm glad I've got a death army started, but, man, I'm really going to have to tweak it now, because it's like, I'm mostly skeletons, but a little bit of, like, Vargeists and some Necromancer. I've already got the Necromancer and the Karen Wraith done, so these guys are going to have to get through, and a Tomb Banshee as well. And a White King and stuff like that, but these guys are going to have to get thrown in there, I think, as well, because they're just amazing looking. Very cool horse guy. That's I don't know. It's just amazing looking models. These are like basically like Karen Wraiths, but like a whole bunch of them running around. That guy's got a big giant bell. These literally look like they took the Karen Wraiths and just decided to make more of them. And make them even more dynamic, which is amazing. This guy's awesome. He's like, again, I don't generally like this smoke effect that he's kind of floating on. This guy, to me, out of any of them, this guy looks like he's going to be fragile as all get out because he's pretty big and is balancing, like, right here where his hands are holding on to this axe. Like, that's all that's really supporting him. That could be problematic. I could see that. This one, if you're smart, I would probably try to make this base part here of like the floaty, bits, and also whatever this big giant lock is. I would probably have both of them touching the ground if I could. So it looks like he's dragging the rock or the lock, but then he's also supported at least on more than one point. But amazing looking models. Then they also announced Titanicus, which is a new, totally different scale. Basically like if you think of what an Imperial Knight size looks now in 40K, an entire Titan is going to be about roughly that same size, which means that the Imperial Knights will maybe be, 3 inches high, maybe 2.5, something like that. But it's going to be this entire game that you'll be able to play, and it's all going to be plastic. All these different like Chaos type Knights and non-Chaos Knights and Adeptus Titanicus, and it's taking place during the Horus Heresy too, which I think is very interesting. So this will again be a box game. There's a trailer for it, which is just more of a teaser. That dude's for Necromunda. Looks like it's a bunch of Forge World stuff. New pitches for Blood Bowl, which I think is also nice. you know, I was kind of hoping they were going to start releasing some new tiles for Shadespire, which they said they were, but I haven't seen them yet. A lot of Blood Bowl, Blood Bowl, Blood Bowl, more Blood Bowl, which is cool. I'm really glad they're, you know, they're supporting it well. Here's a little dude running away again. I hope we get one of these at my local shop so I can get my picture taken inside of the thing. That's fun. And then a bunch of new stuff for Horus Heresy. Again, we're talking about a lot of Forge World jazz, all that kind of stuff. Let's see if they've got more about... There's a big honking dragon. I'm looking for more information. Oh yeah, here's another Stormcast. This woman is like soaking up... she's the Sequitur Prime, and I think she's like... It looks like she's like soaking up souls from people that are dead on the battlefield or something, which is kind of cool. Looks like Stormcaster getting a machine gun emplacement or something, so that's fun. And I think they're getting wizards too somewhere. I swear to God, I saw like a wizard. This thing is awesome. Jeez Louise. Yeah, that's dang. This is a bunch of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings. End of day one. Some interviews. Whole bunch of clothing now. They've got their whole clothing line where you've got t-shirts and all kinds of jazz there. But you can seemingly... you can't buy them online, I don't think. Which is kind of a bummer. What else? Oh yeah, these are those tables I was talking about. So this is the... Or someone was asking about the new tables. These are kind of what they look like. They're not bad, you know. I don't know that I would put one... I don't know. I'm not sure. New Mechanicus video game. That's interesting. At some point they're gonna... This is like a big board of the new Titanicus. Like, I don't think you have to use these specific boards. You could use your own terrain, but if you want to play like in a city, they do have those types of boards. That's pretty cool. There's a giant crashed. That looks like regular. That looks like 40K. It's kind of a cool board, though. That's the thing about, another thing about going to some place like Warhammer Fest is there's tons and tons and tons of really cool terrain and boards. They've got a bunch of new dice that are coming out. Scenery dice, wound counters, command and status dice. Some other new terrain. Objective markers, which are kind of cool because they have like a line of objective markers for 40K, and these are new different ones that are more for Age of Sigmar, which I think are pretty nice. Here's those technical paints. That was if you want to paint your ghosts, whether you want them to be bluish, then you're using Nighthaunt Gloom, or if you want them to be greenish, then you're using Hexwraith Flame. So that's fun. They're basically kind of glazes. And so you're going to probably paint your guys mostly white, maybe a little bit of white and tan, and then you throw that stuff over it. Here's someone teaching you how to paint terrain and things like that. I think this is from today still. Yeah, this is from Sunday. So we're back up pretty much at the top of the page. Let me go to news. Because there is a thing about... they do show somewhere, all right, I guess maybe not. They do show somewhere information about what's coming in the new edition. So they're going to have a lot more maps. They're going to be changing up. And this is just more of an intro. All right, well, anyway, someplace they started talking about some of the changes that are coming in the new edition. They still don't have anything up from today, which is sort of interesting. An expanded narrative, refined gameplay, and your questions answered. So yeah, there's a lot of information on the website here about what kind of changes they're making. But it sounds like we're not going to have very long to wait, because it sounds like we're waiting until pretty much June, which is right around the corner, and then the new version's coming. So, alrighty. Kyle Richmond says, not a fan of the purity seals hanging off of the table. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, I can understand that. Sam Hinchy says that Titanicus looks really awesome. I never played like Epic or anything back in the day. Whoops, I forgot to... Hang on. There we go. I never played Epic or anything like that back in the day, so it's not necessarily something that I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to maybe trying it out, maybe playing a game or something like that. But yeah, definitely that'll be interesting. Paul Noxie says bluish greenish. That should be the real name of the paints. Well, they're technically glazes, so there's that too. But I know what you mean. Torch asks, Sigmar version 2 still free rules? That I don't know, and they haven't particularly said. They've talked about how there's going to be a book, but to be fair, there was a book when the first one came out. They did say that the rules aren't going to be 4 pages anymore, but I don't know if that means that there's going to be like a 6-page PDF or if it's not going to be free rules anymore. I'm not sure on that. I believe that the War Scrolls will still be free, but I don't know really. They haven't said. So it'll be interesting. Liam says, guns in Sigmar, don't bring your 40k into fantasy. I mean, it's technically not guns, I don't think. I think that they're like, it's like a big ballista. Like they look kind of like a big crossbow thing, like an emplaced crossbow. Although, to be fair, I think that the dwarves have got like flintlock style guns and cannons and stuff like that. VJ Morph says, Adam, regarding keeping your airbrush clean, I've been pretty fastidious with it, but it's getting a bit of a pain. Thoughts on using an ultrasonic cleaner after each session to speed things up? That's what I keep my airbrush in. Actually, I have one of those little $25, on Amazon ultrasonic cleaners, and I ultrasonic clean my airbrush, and then I leave it in there. That's where I leave it. When I leave it in fluid, it's in the ultrasonic cleaner. It's very quick for me, and it works really well. So I've been happy with that. Let me see here. What else have we got? Hi, Adam. I'm really happy to hear that Age of Sigmar lore is going to be less abstract with the addition of the mapping of the mortal rends. Do you agree that this is something that should have been done earlier? As I've gotten older, I have realized that when you make things, you can't put everything that you want to put into the thing when you originally launch it, because then you'll never launch it. Working on Game 4, the app that we've been working on now for years and released back around Christmas, the Game 4 Connecting Tabletop Gamers app, there was a lot of stuff that we wanted to put in it, but we were like, if we have to also write that and also write that and also put in that and test, it still wouldn't be launched, here in May. So that's something that's called minimum viable product, MVP, which is not most valuable player at all, but minimum viable product. I think that if they would have had to have waited to get a bunch of fluff and maps and all kinds of extra stuff into Age of Sigmar, I think they would have released it a year later. Now, some people will say, oh, well, why didn't they just wait and just release it a year later? Because, again, they're a business, and they knew that fantasy was really getting problematic as far as sales were concerned. There are times when, like, not everything can be perfect when you launch, so that's kind of the way it works. I don't know. I'm glad that they're doing it as well. They're adding more fluff and stuff like that into it. But I was okay with what they launched originally. When you start something out new, it's always different than once it's been out for a couple of years. People look at the Game 4 app, going back to that again, and say, well, it looks great, but I wish there were more people in it. Well, we've only been out for not even quite 5 months yet. You know what I mean? So when Facebook started, there were not as many people as there are in there now either, and there weren't as many features, and there weren't, all these different types of things. That's the way software works. It's the way pretty much any kind of creative thing works. When I first started the YouTube channel, I didn't do live shows because I didn't really understand how to do it, and I don't even know if the technology was quite necessarily dialed in very easily without just using Google Hangouts. And so, things, the sound gets better, the cameras get better, things over time kind of change. And so I understand that their first initial launch of it was not the end. That's not the way things work, I guess. So that's where I'm at with that. Adam, do you remove the rubber O-ring when you put it in your ultrasonic cleaner so do you use the cleaner that doesn't attack the rubber? Like I said, I use the Iowata airbrush cleaner because I have an Iowata airbrush, and I bought like a big bottle of it. It's like maybe a 32 ounce or maybe 16 ounces, but it's a bigger bottle. I don't take the O-rings out, and I haven't had any trouble. So, yeah, like if you use something that is not necessarily designed for airbrush cleaning, maybe you might have to take the rings out, but I don't even 100% know. I mean, there's a ring on the bottom where the air hose thing goes on, I think. But yeah, no, I've never taken the rings out, so. Jesse Daniels says, of interest on Game 4, what's the user count up to now? We're over 15,000, I believe. I don't think we're quite to 16 yet. We were just talking about it on Thursday. I want to think it's Thursday, and I think we're over 15,000. The store list is up over 6,100 now. So when we first launched, there were 5,800 stores worldwide that were listed in our store finder. People have added stores and told us about stores that we had originally missed in our first initial search, and we've been adding and adding and adding, and also new stores have opened, things like that, and now we're up over, that store list is over, the store finder list is over 6,100 stores worldwide. So yeah, it's been working out pretty well for that, so that's good. Nosferatu Jones, but will there be a rule book? Oh, dang it, and then it's rolled up. Hang on, backing it up. But will there be a rule book as well with maps and fluff? Yeah. I'm 98% sure that they will definitely be producing the big rule book. Like I said, again, when they launched Age of Sigmar, the rules were free online, the war scrolls were free online, but they did make a hardcover book that had, the 4 pages of rules in it and also a bunch of other stuff in there, which I own. It's somewhere down in the basement. So yeah, I know that they'll be at least releasing the rules or this book as well with all this extra stuff in it. But the question is whether or not there's going to be also a free version of just the core rules. I get the suspicion that there probably will be. It may be along the lines of 40K, because 40K, the free core rules are something you can download from their website. But it's just the core base rules. If you want to get a little fancier and start adding more stuff, then you got to buy the book. But, it depends. VJ Morph says, Adam Vince just did a video about paint additives showing Warcolour's paints and additives. Have you used Warcolour? I haven't. I've never used them. I've heard about them. I know Vince talks about them pretty frequently, and I know Vince is a very good painter, so I keep thinking about getting them, but there's no place around here that sells them. So, and I don't know where they're based out of. They're not. I've never seen them at Adepticon or Gen Con or any place like that. So, I'm assuming you can only buy them online? I don't know. I'll have to look a little bit more into it. If anyone knows anybody at Warcolour, have them shoot me an email. Kilty O'Neill says, just sent a Game 4 tweet to China. Get ready for 1 billion new users. All right, we'll do that. Definitely. All right, let's see here. People talking about Game 4. Using Game 4, I found a game play shop that I never knew about, only 3 miles from my home. See, there you go. Zombie Boy, Adam, with regards to Game 4 app, could you please do an update to include age range, or should I just put it in the posting? I put a post up for new players, but I had to turn down a few under 18. In that situation, if you're doing a looking for players, I would definitely put that into the description. Like, you're looking for people who are over the age of 18. Someone recently just reached out to us and said, hey, can you put in a little section that says whether or not you require painted armies, because someone wanted to play, but he only wanted to play with people who had painted armies, which I totally get. But the thing is that Game 4 is not just for wargaming, it's for all types of tabletop gaming. So making a field for, do you play with painted armies or not? Yeah. In that situation, we just told him, put it in your description saying, hey, I really want to play, and I'm looking for this game and this game, painted armies only, please, or something like that. And I would do the same thing with the age thing. I would put that into the description. That's kind of the point of the description, is that it's a catch-all for catching all those different things. But I understand what you're talking about. Because, yeah, I'm a 46-year-old guy, and I'm like, hey, let's play, and then it's a 14-year-old, and I'm like, nah, maybe. I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea, and that kind of stuff, so... Dylan asks, Adam, have you tried Reaper paints? Yes, I own some Reaper paints. The ones that I like best, honestly, are their brush on. I have the black and the white brush on primer, and I use those, mainly the white brush on primer, for when I'm painting skin in Caucasian type skin. I'll prime the model in whatever color I prime it in, but then I use white primer to cover up whatever color I originally primed, but I do that on the face or the skin parts, let that dry, and then I go over with whatever flesh tone, whether it's Caucasian-y or whatever kind of color, I go from there. Because if you put that flesh tone directly over the primer, if it's a darker primer, it takes more coats and it's a pain. You throw a white primer on top of it, you brush on, it works pretty well. At least that's what I have found. JP Got Rocket says, the real trick for Game 4 is going to be culling shops that close over the app lifetime. We've had people as well who have reached out to us and said, hey, this store closed. And then we check to make sure that they're not just, trying to get the store that they don't like, get their listing off of the app, and we go look online and find out. And then we have pulled some stores that have closed, because that happens too. So yeah, we've been pretty cognizant of that. JP Got Rockets, I think Warcolour is in Europe somewhere. That's probably, I think that's the case. Let me see. When I clean my airbrush, I only take off the front of the nozzle out and rinse with cleaner. I generally, like I said, I usually throw it into I take it mostly all apart, including the needle. I take that part out. And then I throw many parts of it into the ultrasonic cleaner. Not the needle, pretty much just the main body, the front nozzle bits, which of there are 1, 2, 3. The rest of the stuff in the back, like the spring and the trigger and all that stuff, I don't put in there because paint really doesn't get to that part. But those parts that paint touches, I throw all that into the ultrasonic cleaner. It only runs for like 3 minutes. You hit the button, like once after it's done. Then you hit it again a couple of times. You're doing other stuff while you're, waiting for it to finish. And then I leave it in there because then it doesn't, like the paint never dries on the inside of the brush and gets it clogged and is a pain because it's basically kind of always wet except when I'm using it. So yeah. Hello guys, I have a quick question. What do you guys think about the new second edition of Age of Sigmar? Do you think that there will be a new 75-pound starter box set for the new edition or not? Thanks. They haven't said yet. I hope kind of that there is a new starter because I really hope that the Nighthaunts are part of it. I'm really hoping. Now, the question is if they do a starter, are they going to make it Stormcast versus Nighthaunts? Honestly, I would be okay with that. There's a lot of people that would be like, okay, cool, Nighthaunts, awesome, but I didn't want any more Stormcast. Because there's a lot of people that they're just like tired of how many Stormcasts there are, and I get that. But, man, if there was like Nighthaunts versus something new Nurgle or something, I don't know, maybe elves. I don't want the elves, but I would like the Nighthaunts. So if there was a starter box, definitely, that had Nighthaunts in it, I would definitely be doing that. Just some guy says the old general handbooks are still good to have for older battle plans and whatnot. I agree. I originally was like, so now I have this book that I bought that last year and now it's useless. But it's not. I mean, like the rules and the points are now not, have been replaced by the new General's Handbook. But a lot of the battle plans and things like that you can still use and play with. And so the book is still useful that way, which I kind of like. Plus there's a little bit of fluff in there too, I think. Maybe not much, but yeah. On the topic of paints, have you ever used scale color stuff? I'm assuming you mean scale 75. I do have some scale 75. I've got like 1 or 2 of they mostly sell their stuff in packs. So it's like a bunch of bottles that are all like maybe metallic. So they're all maybe like they're designed to kind of like, oh, these are all foliage. These are all armor. These are all whatever. And I have at least 1, if not 2 of those. I like them okay. They're not my favorite paint, but they are a little bit easier to get into an airbrush because A, they're in dropper bottles, and B, they're a little bit more fluid, and so you just maybe throw a little bit of thinner in there, and then they airbrush pretty nicely, actually. I've heard really good things about their metallics, but I haven't tried them. I was looking at them when I was at Adepticon because they had a table at Adepticon or a booth or whatever, but I didn't pull a trigger because I got distracted or something. I saw a reflection on the wall, and I was like, ooh, or whatever. But so yeah, there's a lot going on at Adepticon. But, yeah. Daniel says, I haven't really looked into other systems yet. I just really like the models for Age of Sigmar. Yeah, there's a lot of great models in that range. I really do. I think that they are the case. What else have we got there? Zombie Boy asks, have you played Necromunda Gang Wars yet? I'm reading rules at the moment. Not really interested in sewer rules, but above ground skirmish. I have not played any games of Necromunda yet. To be honest, I've been very busy. I do want to paint a bunch of the scatter terrain that they have in there. I don't know I'm going to have the time to ever sit down and actually play Necromunda, so we'll see. I don't know. I just don't like the gang aesthetic. I mean, I don't. I'm not sure why, which is weird because I really love like Judge Dredd, and there was a lot of that kind of weird sort of gang aesthetic in Judge Dredd, like the comic and stuff like that. But for some reason in this game, I've just never quite stuck to that gang aesthetic and really enjoyed it. I'm not sure, but anyway, if I was playing, I would definitely probably want to play the Gang War expansion because it makes it more like a skirmish game and less like a board game, kind of. So, I understand what you're saying there, definitely. Catmandu says, "Hi Adam, any tips for painting smaller models such as 15 millimeter scale? Just tiny brushes?" The trick for painting really small models, like 15 or 20 millimeter, is to just not, I don't want to say not care as much. I am going to say understand that you can't get as detailed as you do with a 28 or a 32 millimeter or whatever model. So just like, painting troops for Flames of War. Like, don't try to paint eyes. Don't try to, just like you're going to just go blurp and some, skin tone across the face and, boots. And you just have to understand that because they're so small, you can't get real fancy. And if you try to, you'll go nuts. So don't do that. But it's basically Some people like 15 millimeter type scale because it's so much quicker to paint because you can't care about that. As you can't go be like, well, I got to put some highlight on the nose because they're like, they're that big. They're tiny little dudes. And so you just sort of go blurp, 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 blurp. Colors, cool. Next one. Maybe throw a wash on there. That's fine. I would, but not everybody is me. So, that's I think maybe the best tip for painting really tiny, like 15 millimeters. Just understand that you can't get as detailed. So just kind of go on and that's the point of 15 millimeters. You're supposed to have a lot of tiny little people and not focus on details as much. So. What else have we got? Zebulon Jurgen says, how do you feel about Slaves to Darkness possibly getting a reboot as Dark Oath? I haven't heard anything about that yet. Yeah, I don't know. The only Slaves to Darkness stuff that I've got is I've got a bunch of Chaos Warriors. And I like them fine in my Chaos Army for Age of Sigmar. They're not spectacular, but they do decent work. I think they're all 2 wounds. So, they're better than goat people. I use them mainly as a little bit tougher bubble wrap or a little bit tougher speed bump. But I don't have a ton. I maybe only have like 10 or 12. I should probably be running 20, but I haven't yet, as it turns out. Diaz52 says, what is BGM in Game 4? Board game. So there's board games, CCGs for collectible card games, RPGs for role-playing games, and then WAR, W-A-R, is for war games, like the stuff that we like. So there you go. Yes, you answered your own question already there, Diaz52, board game, yes. And so have other people. I'm always a bit behind in the chat. I apologize. Eric asks, speaking of Flames of War, do you think that Flames of War is dying? I don't think so, no. I mean, I don't know. We used to play it, 3rd edition, I believe. And now that 4th edition has come, we have not played, but that's because the people that I know around here, we've mostly been focusing on other stuff. Like, 8th edition 40K, several of the guys that I used to play Flames with are getting heavy into that, like going to tournaments and painting a lot of armies and things. Shadespire has also been taking up time and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like, my plan right now is, because I'm going to Valhalla in the fall, there's going to be a Conflict 47 / bolt action sort of kind of event during Valhalla. So I want to get my bolt action stuff like enough of it painted so that I can bring it and play. We'll see how that goes, but that's my plan. Because of that, I'm focusing more on that than I am focusing on Flames of War. I haven't really, I don't know. I mean, I still have all my Flames stuff, and I do have a copy of the 4th edition rulebook because I think they gave it out at Adepticon, the little one. But I have not played the new edition, so I don't know. I still get the emails every Thursday from Battlefront. They seem to be doing fine, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are still playing it. Like, it's just around here, my small group where we did used to play it, we haven't played it in a while. But I don't think that that's indicative of the overall market, at least not that I've heard. So I don't think it's dying. What else have we got? I paint a lot of 6mm and 10mm historical stuff, says Dewey, and use the same brushes as I would for 28mm, just don't do detail. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, some people paint with really big brushes when they do 28, so you may not want to use that for like good size brushes. You may not want to use that for 15 or for even 6, but you may. It depends on how sharp the point and how good the brushes are to some degree. But generally, you want to it would make sense, I think, to use slightly smaller brushes when you're painting, especially 6mm stuff. So, Torch says, summer is coming equals teachers get to hobby more. Woot. Yes, that would be a good benefit, to teaching. I could see that being very helpful. My hobby time right now is super compressed. This next month is busy. So today's the 13th. This upcoming next week, I've got stuff going on, but not a ton of stuff. Currently, the plan is for next weekend, shooting the first bat rep with moderator Matt for Rec Age. Hopefully that will work out. There is a possibility of a date issue. If it does, it might slip a little bit, but hopefully we're going to be doing that next week, or next weekend on Saturday. Then on the Thursday following that, like the 24th, I'm going to be at ACD Game Day in Madison, Wisconsin, which is aimed more towards stores and things like that. We're going to have a booth for Game 4. The week after that, we're going to be in Milwaukee for the Nexus Game Fair, where we're going to have a booth for Game 4. So I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then the week after that is Tabletop Minions Expo, TMX, this thing. So that's the 9th and 10th of June. And I'll be there. And then, so Sunday is the 10th. And then on the 13th, which is like a Wednesday or Thursday or whatever, I'm then flying to Columbus, Ohio for Origins. So I'll be in Origin. So I'm going to be real busy until about late June. So I don't see a lot of hobby happening in my future, sadly. But yeah, it's going to be a busy month. So yeah, I don't know. It's I would like to, hopefully, like I said, this week I'm going to, because I also want to get some terrain pieces done for the bat wrap. So that's about the only hobby I'm going to hopefully be able to do, or sadly, that's the only hobby I'll be able to do for this week. But yeah, I think if I just edit one of the videos with Sam as opposed to shooting a new episode, then that'll save me a little bit of time, but I'll still have to, it's still going to take a good portion of probably Thursday to get that ready to go. So I can maybe paint Monday, and I can paint maybe Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be like I said, going to be busy. So that being said, if any of you are going to be at Origins in Columbus, Ohio on June 13th to the 17th, I think, I will also be there. So maybe I'll try to do some sort of meetup, or I don't know, maybe you'll just bump into me. That'll be cool too. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, I do have some coffee. Good. Let's see here. People talking about Titanicus a little bit. That's cool. Back and forth. Jesse Daniel says he'll be at Origins. That's cool. All right. Dan says, hey, Adam, I'm new at Age of Sigmar, and I was thinking my first army would be Death. Is it likely that non-Nighthaunt montals, e.g. skeletons, will be updated as part of 2nd edition? Should I wait before buying? I'm hoping that they're going to come out with some new skeleton stuff. They seem to be focusing pretty heavily on Nighthaunt. If you were only going to go skeletons, I don't know that I would wait, but I mean, because you can still get the normal skeletons right now, but if you want like skeleton archers, you can't get those anymore because they were basically Tomb Kings. So I would maybe look on eBay or something like that, and you might be able to find some. But yeah, that's a good question. It looks like they're focusing pretty heavily on Nighthaunt. I don't know if they're going to do more skeleton stuff. I would think that they would because they did that amazing skeleton warband for Shadespire. I mean, really nice sculpts, really, really well done. So I would think that they would do that, but you know, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a little bit further down towards the end of the year, but that would be nice because I like skeletons as well. But I am also really interested in these Nighthaunt dudes because they're pretty cool. What else have we got? JP Got Rockets is going to be at Origins on Saturday. That's fun. Eric asks, are you going to Gen Con? Currently, no. 99% sure no. We aren't going to have a booth there. It's really, really, really crazy expensive and very difficult. We may have a booth there for Game 4 next year at Gen Con, but not this year. It didn't work out. Yeah, so and I'm not planning on going for myself either because it's, again, like I said, it's pretty crazy expensive. So that's why I'm going to give Origins a try. I haven't been to Origins since 1995, so we'll see how that works out. I'm sure it's a bit different than it was back then, and I basically partially it's me going to sort of do reconnaissance to some degree and to help us learn whether or not we want to have a booth at Origins for next year or not. But and also because again I haven't been to Origins in a long time, so I want to check it out. So we'll see how that works out too. Two Heads Talking says, Adam, what did you think? Did Age of Sigmar need a version 2? Yes, I would say it did. I'm a little surprised it's this year and not next, to be honest. Yeah, honestly, that's probably where I'm at. I'm a little surprised it's this year. I kind of was expecting to see something maybe next year. Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised when they first started talking about this new version, and I was like, "Oh, really?" So yeah, I almost thought they were going to wait maybe another year, but I do think it needed some. I don't want to say fresh blood. It definitely needed some new models that were not just more Stormcast or Khorne. You know what I mean? So there's that, and I'm glad they're kind of going down that road. But I wish that there was a little bit more. As much as I don't like elves, I do kind of wish they would maybe do some elves, because I think that there are people out there who are like, I would love to play Age of Sigmar, but I only like to play elves, and there's not much for elves. You know, you've got some high elf stuff that's old. You've got some wood elf stuff that's old. Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do. But I do think it was necessary, or it was at least needed. I think it's maybe a year sooner than I would have done it, but I don't know anything about their financials or their process or their, manufacturing schedule or anything along those lines. So who knows? But I do think I assumed it was coming. It just came a little quicker than I thought. How late am I? Says Tamaya. Well, it's 10:23, so you are about an hour and 23 minutes late if you were trying to get here at the beginning. If you're trying to get here now, then you're right on time. JP Got Rocket says that Origins has a lot more board games and a lot of RPGs. Minis are making a comeback. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be a big minis thing. I mean, just like Gen Con, like of the four main genres, miniatures are the smallest at Gen Con, and I assumed it to be the same at Origins. I did try to look at their event schedule, and there is a decent amount of wargaming, but Origins event schedule, maybe it's different now since registration's opened up, but previous to registration, the only way to look at their event schedule was to download, and this is a convention that 20,000 people go to, by the way. You had to download a CSV file. For those of you that don't know, that's a comma-separated value. I don't know what the heck it stands for. Anyway, it's a file that you then have to open up in a spreadsheet program. And then you could look at the spreadsheet to see what events were going on. And I was like, really? There's no other way for me to look at what events are going on? Like I said, now that registration is actually opened up for the events, hopefully that's not the case anymore. Hopefully you don't have to download the CSV, open it up in a spreadsheet, and then fax them what you want to go to. But it wouldn't be completely surprising. So anyway, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I do want to try to get into some games and do some stuff and that. But yeah, I understand. It's not. I know it's mostly a board gaming and RPG convention, but still, there's a decent amount of stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Liam says, new Games Workshop Dream Wish request, Lava Elves. Lava Elves. Well, I would think the Lava Elves and the Wet Elves would not be friends. You know what I mean? Like, that would be bad. So, yeah, definitely. My wife is home from... She was playing at church, and I think that we're going to see...
Playing for my mom for Mother's Day, because I'm a nice person.
So, there's that back. There's the cello, and she's put the stickers, the eyeballs on it. And she was at Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day here in America. I don't know if it's Mother's Day everywhere, but at least in America it's Mother's Day. And so, yeah, there's that kind of stuff going on. And there's CSV stands for comma separated values. See, I think I got that right. So yeah, that's where that's at. Chris says, did I miss the discussion of Rogue Trader? There wasn't a lot of discussion. We just talked about how it's they may have released the video a little early because some rumors got out. It's coming out in late 2018, according to the video, and the video had weird 70s funk music. So yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird, but the models look kind of cool, but very different too. Yeah, when I first saw those pictures, I was like, because there was pictures that I saw before I saw the video, and I was like, the hell are those? But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Saint Lion says, will Age of Sigmar 2nd Edition change the rules? Yes, by definition. There will be different rules. Kind of generally, they update, they tweak, they change rules. Like one of the things that they've announced is there's no more shooting out of combat. So for those of you that don't play Age of Sigmar, what that means is if you had a unit that could do range attack as well as hand-to-hand attack, and you moved it into combat with another hand-to-hand unit, the unit that had the range attacks could punch these guys, or hand-to-hand these guys, but they could also shoot people over there if they wanted to, which almost every game says once you're in hand-to-hand combat, there's no more shooting. Now, they have not said whether or not the unit that has the guns will be able to shoot the guys that they're fighting. They might still allow that. And they also haven't said whether or not somebody else can shoot into combat. A lot of games don't allow that because you might hit your friends. And then in some games, like Song of Blades and Heroes, if your character has got the keyword evil, they can shoot into combat because they don't care if they hit their friends because they're evil. That's how it works. But when Age of Sigmar first came out, there were no rules. If you had a range attack, you could shoot guys you were going to fight, guys you were fighting, guys over there while you were fighting these guys. You could shoot into combat. It was Wild West, which, again, it was supposed to be kind of a little bit more entry level, maybe, or at least a little bit easier, and making all these rules about who you can and can't shoot kind of was like, a bummer. So, but now they're tweaking it. But they have just said so far that you can no longer shoot out of combat, but they have not said you can't shoot into combat or shoot guys that you're in combat with or whatever. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. There have been some other little things here and there, but that's pretty much it. Yep. Yes, the cello is back. The cello does not come for you. I'm sorry. That's not the case. All right. Let me see here. Not everywhere. No, that's a response to somebody else. The Noob Painter says, yeah, Rogue Trader is really weird. Super blanchy designs. Board game using the old name. Yeah, I get the feeling it's a little bit along the lines of the new Necromunda, in that like the new Necromunda is played on a board, but it's just like, oh, here's the sewers that you're fighting in, and it's not a board game, but it's played on the board, so you know where the the overall, parameters of where you can play are, but you don't need to put up terrain and do all that jazz. I get the feeling this is going to be the same way, where you're fighting in a ship. You're fighting like in a rogue trader, the actual ship. But from the pictures I've seen, it's very difficult to see if there's any like hexes or squares or anything like that. So Space Hulk is a game where you're fighting on a ship, but it's all about moving, you move 3 squares, or this guy goes diagonally, and whatever, that kind of stuff. This at least doesn't look like it has squares, so it might as well just be like, this is the borders of the ship, and that's the board, and it's modular, and you can put it together different ways, and you fight on the ship. That could make a lot of sense. Rogue traders, if you've ever read about them, they're very interesting. They're almost like pilots, or not pilots, they're almost like pirates in some situations. They generally have like almost like a letter of marque to some degree from the Emperor, from the Imperium, so they can do certain things, but they also kind of skirt the edges of what's legal. And a lot of times they're super crazy rich, and they have these super crazy outfits. They're like, yeah, there's a couple of the Black Library books that deal with rogue traders as part of the story, especially like the Eisenhorn kind of set, and it's interesting. And they're very ostentatious. They're very, so I can see why like the good guy armor is the way it is. But the models, like the weird sort of vaguely maybe Nurgle, who knows what the heck some of those guys are. You're right. They do look like John Blanche art brought to life, but not quite as scribbly. You know what I mean? I think it's really hard to 3D model scribbles. So that's kind of the way it works. Let me see here. Scarlac the Wanderer says, maybe we could get a brief interview with Miss Adam. That's not her name. What's her point of view about wargaming? Why is she not playing it? How is she coping with her husband's hobby? She went back outside. She's doing something with plants currently, I think. But she was at TMX, so if any of you were at TMX last year, you've met her there. She will not be at TMX this year because actually she's going to be traveling during TMX, so sadly she won't be there this year. She is a game player. She likes to play board games, some board games which I find astoundingly boring. Like Empire Builder, Euro Rails, a lot of those train games from Mayfair. She and several of our friends like to play those, and I don't. But she also likes computer games. Like right now, her big thing is Civilization 6. She plays that a lot. She's very strategically minded that way more than me. She is a knitter, but is not interested in painting models. I guess if she could knit them tiny little sweaters, maybe. But that sounds like a lot of work. I mean, they're really tiny. They'd be very tiny sweaters. But yeah, well, we don't have any kids, and so we don't. It's not like I'm leaving her with children when I gallivant around and do stuff and whatever. So we're kind of independent that way, which is nice. But anyway, that's the way that works. We do have cats, but none of them are going to college. No, none of them are going to college. Two Heads Talking. Adam, how do you turn a paint into a wash? I tried water, but the paint rings as it dries and it doesn't drop into the recesses like real wash. What do I add to make it act like a wash? To make a wash, you need to find something to break the surface tension of the water. I generally don't make my own washes because there's so many companies now that sell them, so I generally buy washes. But if you need to make a wash, then I would probably, like, some people will use... I would just do a search online to find out what people use to make washes. I know in the past there have been times I have used Future Floor Polish, which is an acrylic polish, and that works. But there's other stuff as well that people use. It's basically you're trying to break the surface tension. The reason that you get those rings that appear is because what happens is you've diluted this paint, and so it's like a wash. But it's in like the flat areas, but it's also now the pigment has recessed into the little, into the recesses. But then just at the last second, as the water is starting to dry in the flat areas, the surface tension sucks the pigment back up out of the recesses, and then it makes that high tide mark. So you need something that breaks the surface tension very easily. So as it's drying and it's about to start pulling, it just breaks the surface tension and the pigment stays in the recesses. Yeah, that's probably what we need. Let's see here. I think Diesel just puked.
Yay. Okay.
One of the cats was, I think he threw up.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else? Help painting white armor. Generally what I do is if I'm going to be painting white armor or white much of anything, I start with a very light gray, and then I throw like a very light gray wash, and then I highlight with white. Because if you start with white, you have to darken it to be able to, again, get a highlight, which is hard to do. If you have the right wash, sometimes you can spray white with a primer, throw a bunch of that wash on there, and then highlight up, but it's got to be a very, very specific, in my opinion, cool white or a cool gray wash, but it's hard to say. Let's see here. Frankie Bailey says, wait. If you're both gone, who takes care of the cats? Well, TMX, it's like a couple miles that way, so I'll be home at night. It'll be fine. Let me see here. What else have we got? Chris says, I used to use Future Floor Polish as well. Works good. I know I have made my own wash, and so yeah, Future Floor Polish is what they used to use before you could buy washes like in bottles from manufacturers. If you wanted to make a wash, all the older painters used to make them out of Future Floor Polish and then some water and some paint. And you kind of have to test it and figure out what the best ratios are for you. But then once you do it, you can do it. Honestly, I really think that some companies still do that to this day, because there are some, like even some Games Workshop washes, when I smell them, they smell like floor polish. Like they've got like a smell to them that's like a, you know, like when you get done, you know, polishing the floor in your kitchen with this Future stuff, it's got a nice kind of fresh smell to it. And some of the, I swear some of the washes have that kind of smell. There's one wash, and I forget which one it is, but it smells a little bit like grape Kool-Aid. I don't know. Anyway. Yes, Mr. Cello is back. Cat's vomiting. It's all happening on today's show. Well, cats vomit all the time. I don't know why. It's weird. Yeah, Null in the Oil is quite strong for white armor, unless you want really dirty looking armor. That's a very good point. The wash that I like to use for, and I don't even know if they make it anymore, but the wash that I like to use for doing stuff white is called Pale Gray, and I believe it's made by Reaper, and it comes in like a dropper bottle. I think it's either Reaper or Vallejo, but I think it's Reaper. And it's this stuff called Pale Gray, and it is very, very light, and it works quite well for white armor or for really light armor. Let me see here. Do you think GW is putting out too many skirmish games? Someone asked this question earlier. We've got Shadow War based on older rules, Necromunda also based on older rules, but different from Shadow War, Kill Team, and Rogue Trader. Again, like I said, I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to put out a bunch of different games that will draw in different people. I mean, you don't have to get them all, obviously. You can kind of pick and choose. Like, if there's only one skirmish game out there, well then, if you don't like it, you're not going to play it. But if you're like me and you're like, I don't know if gangs are for me, so Necromunda's not so hot, but you know, Shadow War is more my speed, or Rogue Trader's more my speed, or whatever. You know, having multiple choices out there is what's going to help those types of people get drawn in. So if you, again, like I said, if you just put out one skirmish game, then that's the only way to get into, you know, via skirmish. Well, it's going to leave money on the table to some degree. It's going to leave people on the table. I don't know if that's the right euphemism, but it's going to be, people aren't going to be able to, you know, the people will be like, I want to play one of their skirmish games, or I want to play the skirmish game. I want to get into skirmish for Games Workshop, but I don't like Rogue Trader, or I don't like whatever. So having multiples allows them to, I think, draw in different types of people who are interested in different types of themes. So yeah, definitely. Let me see here. What else have we got? It would be good if Drakenhalf Nightshade smelled like grape Kool-Aid. Yeah, that'd be kind of... Don't drink it. Don't drink it. Zebulon Jurgen says that floor polish is gloss acrylic medium. To make a wash, all you need is gloss medium, matte medium if you prefer, and flow improver. Yeah, I've seen flow improver. I think I have some maybe in the basement. But yeah, you can get flow improver as well at like an art supply store. Again, that helps to break the surface tension in the water, which is really what you need to do. Harry Wagstaff says, the problem I have with GW right now is they put out so many rules it's hard to keep up. See, I don't know. I think that the trick is you pick what you want. Like if you like, let's say, you know, there's so many different things coming out from them. Like let's say it's the end of the year. It's 2018. So you've got Shadespire, Necromunda, Kill Team, what else? Rogue Trader. You've got, if you're into Shadespire, you got second edition Age of Sigmar. You've got 40K. You don't need to do all of them. I'm sure that Games Workshop, any company would love it if you would buy all their products, certainly. I would love it if you would watch all of my videos. You know, the grocery store would be perfectly happy to sell you everything that they make there. You know, one of everything, whatever, that's fine. But they understand that, and everybody understands that that's not the case in most situations. There are, every once in a while, there are certain collectors that will buy everything that a company puts out. You might be a person who watches every video that your favorite YouTuber puts out. You will probably not go to the grocery store and buy one of everything. That's sort of weird. But, you know, so understand that if you're really super attracted to everything and you're like, this is awesome, well, then maybe you're one of those people who's a completist and you're going to end up buying everything. Oops. But hopefully not. Hopefully what you're going to do is you're going to have more choices. And you're going to be like, you know what? I've been checking out Kill Team and I'm really interested in that. And I'm going to buy that and not Rogue Trader. Or I'm going to buy this and not that. Or maybe I'm going to buy this one and this one, but not all four of them. Or whatever. Maybe I really like Shadespire and that really scratches my fantasy itch. But I also really like Rogue Trader. And boom, you're done. I think that more choices is generally good. I think that if they were to just say, well, look, we're only going to make 40K, well, then the people who don't like 40K aren't going to buy their product. They're going to go someplace else. So it just makes sense to me that they're doing it this way. Now, people are looking at it and going, geez, there's so much stuff coming out. But again, like I said, you don't have to buy it all. That's the way it works. A lot of other companies do make skirmish games, and they started when GW didn't have anything during the Dark Kirby days, so GW needs to get that money as well. I mean, yeah, that was the thing, is that we started to see a lot of skirmish games coming out in the last 5 to 10 years, and part of it was because there were people that are like, I would like to get into miniatures, but I don't want to get into having to buy all that stuff for fantasy or all that stuff for 40K. So there were companies like Malifaux that was like, you can get away with just buying a crew of like 6 people, you know, and we'll sell to you in a single box. You don't have to figure out which ones. You just buy a crew and you're cool. And if you want to get into tournaments and expand, well, then maybe you're going to do some stuff, but you could easily play the game with, you have a crew, your friend has a crew, you guys have a book, and you've got some cards, and that's it. And now Games Workshop is looking at that going, say, you know, that's actually pretty smart. And so that's why they're looking at getting people into the hobby, getting the people into specifically their portion of the hobby by making a lot of these skirmish type games to be able to get people in, and it's good business sense. I think that you're seeing almost every company is creating some sort of skirmish game these days because they understand that if you tell someone, look, you want to play our game, that's cool, it's going to cost you $600 to get all the guys you need or whatever. There's a lot of people who are like, I'm not doing that. But if you tell people, look, you can get into our game for under $100, there's a lot of people that'll be like, yeah, that sounds great. So it makes sense. It totally makes sense. Kelly Audia. Hey, Kelly. Kelly says, what's on the bench these days, Tabletop Minions? Right now, on the bench is 3 miniature building authority post-apocalyptic shantytown type buildings and 1 armor cast, like ruined corner of a brick building kind of thing. And by bench, I don't mean that they're currently in the house. They're actually in the garage because I primed them last week. And I just keep forgetting. I just haven't had the time to bring them in. I have the time to bring them in. There's been no reason to bring them in because I haven't had the time to paint them. But they are built and primed. So I need to paint them up this week so that I can have them in time for the battle report. So right now it's just basically terrain that I have on the gaming table. But after the terrain is done, then I have my orcs for Shadespire. They're built and ready to go. They just need to be primed and all that kind of stuff. but I'm going to be making a hobby progress vlog about that process because I want to do that. And so I kind of need to get a couple of things dialed in a little bit before that. And with all the stuff going on in the first half of June, that may not happen until the second half of June, as it turns out. So we'll see how it goes. Definitely, yes. Paul Noxie says, can't remember if you already said, are you attending Valhalla later this year? Yes, I am. I am a guest of Valhalla again this year, along with some of the guys from Mini Wargaming, like Dave and I think Quark, maybe Josh. And who else that I know is going to be there as a guest? There's a guy named Andrew who has got a channel that I cannot think of the name of. It's an RPG channel, Dawncast, something. He's going to be there again this year, and I think Owen from Gaming with the Cooler is going to be there. Obviously, Wargamer Girl is going to be there because she and her husband run it. So, yeah, looking forward to that. I've got my plane tickets. Everything's ready to go. I just need to get what armies I'm going to bring and that kind of stuff and get that figured out. So, I don't know that I'm bringing my... I don't know. We'll see. I was going to say I don't know that I'm bringing my Age of Sigmar army this year, but maybe I will. But maybe it'll be a different Age of Sigmar army. Maybe I won't bring my 40k. I don't know. I want to bring everything, but obviously, you know, you're flying on a plane, you can't quite do that. Yep. So let's see here. Cody Pennell says, "What's the game app of yours again called?" It's called Gamefor. GAMEFOR. And you can find it on Android and you can find it on iOS. It is. You can also go to the website, which is www.iamgamefor. So it's IAMGAMEFOR.com. You can just do a Google search for Gamefor, all one word. You probably find it. Yeah, it's going well though. Other people are also answering the question for me, which I appreciate. Hey, Uncle Adam, it seems like the Death versus Life story is the 2018 vibe. Oh, that's probably pretty true. What do you think about Skaven getting some love via battle tomes for clans, models, and new story stuff? That's a good question. Would a starter box for second edition of Skaven versus Nighthaunt, that would be sort of cool. I would think it was cool. I don't know that everybody would think it was cool, but I think it would be pretty cool. But they haven't really announced any new Skaven stuff recently, so yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, I know there are some battle tomes out for Skaven stuff, like Clan Pestilence and whatnot. I don't know if there's one for Clan Scryer, whatever the heck it's called. I can't remember. But I know that there's some, so yeah, we'll see. I also really I've got a Skaven Blood Bowl army that's built and primed, and I need to paint them as well. But we're there, so yeah, it'll be interesting. I'd like to see that too. Nicholas asks, do you use a matte finish to protect your minis, and if so, what's your favorite? So in the past, my favorite has been Dull Coat by Testers. But I feel as if recently, and for some reason, you can't get Dull Coat in Europe anymore. It's something about giving people cancer, or potentially giving people cancer, or it's just poisonous in general, or something. So, from what I understand, you can't get it in England or in Europe very much anymore. And I honestly think that they've changed the formulation here in America because I don't feel it's nearly as flat matte as it used to be. Now, that being said, when I was at Adepticon, I was talking to a guy named Joseph. 98% sure that it was Joseph, who works for Death Ray Designs, who I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Gaslands. And he swears by a product that sounds like it shouldn't work. I have a can of it right here. Because when I was at Walmart yesterday, he said, again, not an ad, he said this Rust-Oleum specialty frosted glass spray, semi-transparent finish, which sounds like it shouldn't work, but he swears by it. So don't go out and try it on your new models yet. I'm going to give it a try and see if it works, and maybe make a video about it if it does, because he showed me his not Shadespire, he showed me his Frostgrave models. Like, we were sitting it was like, I think it was the first night of the convention. It might have been actually Wednesday night. I think it was Wednesday night, and a bunch of people were hanging out in the lobby. I was hanging out with moderator Matt. We were talking. We were hanging out by guys who work for Death Ray Designs, and there was a bunch of other people around. We were all drinking bourbon. Well, most of us were. A lot of us were. But I started having this conversation with this guy Joseph from Death Ray, and he's like, "Oh, definitely this stuff." He says, "I don't think that Testers is nearly as flat as it used to be. I really like this stuff, and it's for spraying on windows to make it look like frosted glass." I'm like, "Shouldn't that frost your miniatures?" He's like, "You would think so, but it doesn't, and it's just really nice and flat and blah blah blah." And I'm like, well, and then he had a small like kind of battle foam style bag or whatever, and he opened it up and started showing me models. He's like, "I sprayed all these with it," and he told me, and he said it was Rust-Oleum for frosted glass. And so when we were at Walmart yesterday, I bought a can. It was like $4. I'm going to give it a try. Do not run out and spray your favorite models with it yet. I'll let you know. I'll do some testing, because I would like to find a really good flat, matte protectant. And if this stuff actually works and doesn't frost my models, and does then that would be awesome. Because like I said, I just don't feel like the dull coat's as dull as it used to be, and I like a really nice dull flat. Like, who wants shiny cloth? You know what I mean? Like if you're painting something like Nurgle that's supposed to have a lot of pus and guts and stuff, and then you spray it with your flat matte stuff, and then you take a brush and some gloss varnish and you go back and you paint all the guts and stuff nice and shiny so they look wet, and that's really cool. But if you can't get that flat to work out, it just looks weird. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Anyway, so I'll test this stuff and let you guys know how it works out, and maybe I'll be like, hey, don't use that, it didn't work. But maybe if it does work, that'd be pretty cool. Two Heads Talking says there are two versions of Tester's Dull Coat. The old version is best, but you can't buy it in EU. Yeah, see, that's what I was telling you about. Let me see. They released the Necron/Mechanicus box set for $40K. I hope they do the same with the new Age of Sigmar box. Yeah, that's true. That would be cool if they released another. Again, it would be nice to have another starter box. That Forgebane thing that they came out with that has the Necron and the Mechanicus stuff in it, that's not exactly a starter box. I mean, it kind of is, but it doesn't come with the rules. Like the original, like the Dark Imperium 40K 8th edition starter box came with 2 armies plus the instruction, like the rule book, like the hardcover rule book, which the Forgebane didn't. So it's not exactly a starter, but it's still a nice kit, like if you're into that stuff. So I can see that. Let's see here. What are we going to do? What else have we got? VJ Morph says I can get Rust-Oleum a lot easier than Dull Coat. Yeah, that's the trick too. Like, I can only get Dull Coat at Hobby Lobby and Hobby Town here in the city I live in, and very frequently they're out. Whereas they had a lot of this at Walmart. Also, Walmart's open 24 hours. So, like, if I needed to dull coat something in the middle of the night, I can't do it if I have to go buy a new can of actual dull coat. But if I use this stuff, So we'll see how that works out. Let me see here. Why isn't Forgebane a 40K starter? It has 2 starter armies and the starter rules. Yeah, well, I mean, it has the starter rules, but it didn't have the actual... Like, that was what was amazing about the Dark Imperium book, or box, in my opinion, is that it came with a hardcover in it. In the past, the starter boxes used to come with the small version of the rule book, which was the entire rules, but none of the fluff or the paint guides and junk like that. But it was, like, the small version, and people would take the small version with them when they would go to, like, travel or conventions or tournaments and stuff like that, because it was less bulky than the big thick book. It was really weird that Dark Imperium came with the hardcover in it, but it was cool. Forgebane, I think, just came with the core rules, which was like that 12-page little packet, which works, but so it's kind of a starter, but I don't know. It is a nice piece of kit. I mean, you've got those cool new Imperial or Mechanicus dudes, the bigger, the like not quite Imperial Knights, but still sort of large. Those look kind of cool. Let's see here. I always buy Citadel paints, says Harry Cross, but they seem to be a bit on the expensive side, and I was thinking of buying some paint that comes in dropper bottles if anyone has recommendations. I like... What do I like? I like, for dropper bottles, I like Vallejo, and I like Secret Weapon. Secret Weapon has got a expanding line of paints in dropper bottles. Originally, their first, like, they used to just have washes, which were technically glazes on their part. But then they started going into paints, and their initial line of paints were designed just for like rust and weathering, but now they're expanding out and doing more and making more and more lines of paints, and their paints are really nice actually. So I like the Secret Weapon Miniatures line of paints quite well. If you're looking again for dropper bottles, really, like, if you're looking for dropper bottles, it's Vallejo in my opinion, and also Secret Weapon. I think that maybe Warcolour, if you can figure out where you can get it, I think is also dropper bottles. If you don't want dropper bottles, it's pretty much Citadel, aka GW, or Privateer Press. They come in their own special pots as well. I like dropper bottles for paints a little better, but for washes, I do generally prefer pots, because then I can just dip into the pot with the wash, and then, having to take the wash out of a dropper bottle and put it onto something like a palette, and that sometimes bugs me a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. Let's see, what else have we got? The new painter says it doesn't have dice or rulers like the Dark Imperium box. Also no scenarios and extra rules in the folio. Yeah, I mean, it's a starter in that it technically has the basic super core starter rules that you can download off the website. But yeah, it doesn't have the ability to build your own armies. It doesn't have any of the scenarios or any of that kind of other stuff. None of the stratagems or any kind of stuff like that for the command points. So you can play it technically, but you sort of need the book as well if you really want to play it properly. So yeah, that makes sense. Armigers. I could not think what those guys were called. Yes. Let's see here. My Mega Painter set is coming through the mail tomorrow. Well, that'll be fun. Harry Cross says, I spent an hour cleaning Citadel paint pots last night. So much dries on the cap. Yeah, no, I mean, that's also sometimes a problem. A lot of people don't particularly like the new pots. The old pots from like 20 years ago, some of them are still good because they were so water or airtight, and the new ones are a little bit less so. Yeah, there's plenty of people who post not videos, but pictures and stuff like that of them taking all the paint out of their Citadel paints and putting them into dropper bottles that they've purchased. That seems like a lot of work, but if it works out for you, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've got my own thoughts about whether I like droppers or pots, and it's usually more droppers for paint, pots for wash, but that's just me. Uncle Abeski says, AK Ultra Matte Varnish through the Airbrush for the win. Yeah, I've been hearing about that too, and I've kind of... Chair is very squeaky today. I've been wanting to try that as well. The AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish. You have to shoot it through an airbrush, but I've heard pretty good things about it. Like, it's really crazy, super flat, and I've been meaning to get some of that. And then fire it, not through my main airbrush, but I've got an Iowata Neo, which I use mainly just for varnishing and covering like that. So I'd like to try that as well. I just keep forgetting to order it because I can't get it again around here anywhere. So, what else have we got? Let's see here. Doesn't Vallejo have a line that matches the old Citadel colors, or am I thinking of someone else? Might be Army Painter. I think Army Painter has tried to do that to some degree, but I don't think that Vallejo necessarily does. Vallejo has two main lines. They have their model color line and they have their game color line. The model color lines are designed to be more aimed towards scale modelers, military modelers. There's a lot of military colors in there and that kind of stuff. The game color is a lot of brighter colors and like fantasy style colors and things like that. Bright blues, bright greens, bright reds, stuff like that you wouldn't use generally in scale modeling because you're trying to paint a German half-track and you don't need bright purple. You know what I mean? Whereas your wizard does not need to be all completely done in olive drab. So it's kind of the two lines that they do that there, and so it's nice that they separate them that way too. DS52 asks, Adam, are you into Warhammer RPGs? 4th edition Warhammer Fantasy RPG is now out for pre-order from Cubicle 7. The only RPG that I'm really getting back into it all is 5th edition D&D. We're starting to play it at work on Tuesdays during lunch. So that's been fun because I haven't played an RPG in forever. But no, I've never played any of the Warhammer ones or the Warhammer 40k ones that Fantasy Flight used to do. So yeah, I don't really know a ton about those games, but I'm glad that the fantasy ones come back because I know I've got friends who like the Warhammer Fantasy stuff. So I'm glad the Cubicle 7's picked that up and kind of started to run with it again. Well, it's 11 a.m. on my side, folks. So it is time for me to go, and I've got Mother's Day stuff to do over at my wife's parents' house, and then after that, we're going over to my mom's house. So there's gonna be a lot of moms going on today for Mother's Day, a lot of mom action. But anyway, yeah. So let's see. The next episode will be 2 weeks from now, and it will. I'm looking at my calendar. What will have gone on? I will have been in Madison for that ACD game day. We'll have Game 4 is going to have a booth at that thing, so I'll have maybe a little bit to talk about that. But and then I will be gearing up to go to Milwaukee the week, like coming right after the show, in a couple of days after the show, to go to Nexus Game Fair. I don't think I have to shift any shows for travel, except no. There will be a show, hopefully, during TMX. Last year's TMX show didn't work so hot. I'm going to try to figure out a better way to do it better. The internet was not the problem. It was my laptop. So we're going to try to figure out how to do it a little bit better and not be so squirrely. And hopefully it'll work out. But that won't be until the 10th of June. So we're a ways away. The next show will be here, and it'll be the normal show. So thanks again for watching, and I hope that you all have a good day, the rest of your day. And keep painting, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, everybody.